given the laws in Europe that everybody says, European laws protect a lot more privacy, and yet your study was over there and people were still worried. So can you maybe talk a little bit about that?
So we did 3 studies with participants in Germany, a qualitative interview study with 120 people whom we interviewed with short interviews, being drivers. Then we had a survey, around about 300 people who participated in a survey. And then we did a field experiment, which was actually quite a cool thing. So we recruited people with their cars, and then we turned their cars with sort of a plug-in device into connected cars. And then we sort of examined their data sharing behavior in a field setting. That was the 3 studies. And now this puzzle basically, right? That individuals have feelings of ownership, and that in Germany and Europe in general, we have strong data protection legislation, and GDPR regulation, or GDPR, has been some sort of role model also for other countries, right? And Europe, to some extent, is seen as at the forefront of privacy protection. The driving data that we're talking about is not just personal data in the sense of the GDPR, but it's also misused by many car manufacturers. So the GDPR essentially gives users the right to access the data, to ask the data to be deleted if they want, and gives them the right also to trade this data, right? Or to migrate it from one player to the other. Yet in many cases, this is difficult at best, right, for the actual drivers. So also from a regulatory point of view, it's really challenging, to say the least, right, the current practices.
Does either one of you have a smart car?
Right, I do. It's connected car, I would say, not the Teslas, but highly connected car. In fact, that's what got me interested in this project, working with Oliver and Patrick. When we first started talking about this paper, we were thinking about the privacy calculus, whether drivers will share or not share. They do this calculus where they say, are the benefits greater than the costs or the loss of privacy? We very quickly came to the conclusion, especially after I bought my connected car, was that really the drivers have no choice anymore. When you're going to buy a connected car, you're not going to be able to turn off all these features. Some cases you don't want to turn off because they are also safety related. Others you cannot turn off because you don't know what the car is sending. So the more relevant question for us at that point was, what would you as a driver share, with whom, under what conditions, for how long, what kind of data? And that's what drove this research. And we found some very interesting things, including some things that didn't make it in the paper. One of which was that people are willing to share their data for a very small compensation.
That's fascinating, because we talk about this all the time, and looking at the profiling of different consumers and the value of their data. So, and we look at that, and we look at it from the US perspective. If consumers were given, there's this company down in Texas that we always talk about, and they sell coffee, and you don't have to pay for the coffee. You have to give them your data, and that is worth it. That exchange is worth it. So right there, in terms of consumers actually having an understanding of, my data has value and I could get compensated for it, which is an entirely other discussion, but it's fascinating that that was tapped into and that was part of your findings.
And Donna, this connects really well with the psychological ownership aspect. So because the consumers and drivers feel it's their data, even for a small compensation, they are sharing it themselves. The company is not just taking it from them without their knowledge. So a cup of coffee might be enough. What we found fascinating was that it doesn't even have to be a monetary compensation or a cup of coffee. If we were to tell the drivers, what if your data were to be used for a program called Lifesaver, which will save lives in the future, it triggered this altruistic belief and feeling in them. And they said, oh, you want my data? It'll help save lives? Yes, you can have it.
Wow. That is extraordinary. And it gives me hope again for the humanity and kindness of people, because that is a good aspect, right? From the psychological, I am doing something good with it. It's not just being used for propaganda or anything along those lines.